You thought curiosity was just for kids? Well, find out how the wonder mindset can actually help you retrain your brain, increase productivity, and squeeze more joy out of life. Welcome to Havilah and Friends. I'm your host, Havilah Malone, and every week I bring you inside my amazing world of mindfulness teachers, inspirational speakers, business experts, celebrities, and so much more to have the conversations that matter to you. And joining us all the way from the land down under is energetic mompreneur and one of the co-founders of Australia's most innovative event series, Wired for Wonder, and nurture her retreats in the online shoe business, Sienna Baby. She's a design thinking coach and NLP master who's on a mission to help us reach our fullest potential through wonder and wander. Please welcome my friend, Sarah Nally. Hey, Sarah.
Oh my goodness, what an awesome intro. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, you are so welcome, and it is so well deserved. I mean, you're doing so many amazing things, and you're also a mom of two beautiful kids, ages 3 and 6. You're in the midst of building this empire. Like, how do you juggle this all? Like, how do you keep all these balls in the air and keep your energy up?
Oh, I feel like I need a medal this morning just for being able to actually get clothes on between the chaos of the two girls. It's basically 109 degrees Fahrenheit, like it's 40 something degrees Celsius in Australia right now. So it's really hot, and the girls have been a bit crazy, a bit frantic. But it is about making sure that when you're juggling the balls, you sometimes take time to look at the one that's just about to fall. And before it falls, you actually acknowledge that it's about to fall. And for instance, we were meant to have this interview an hour ago, and I reached out to you and said, hey, I don't know if I can make it. And you were like, well, I'll give you some flexibility. Maybe we can do it in an hour. And that hour of breathing space just created so much more flow in my day. It meant that I could take my little girls for a little walk, get them settled and chilled, and then jump on the call with you. So it's just that kind of mindfulness and that real consciousness around the fact that you do have lots of balls in the air and that, you know what, sometimes they do get close to being dropped, but if you can just catch it before you do and either cancel or flex and reschedule or kind of reprioritize and move things around, then you can keep that flow and that joy, that good feeling, good vibe.
Amen. And I'm glad the universe helped us to work it all out so that you could join us today and be on this this interview, because I think you have so much.
Partly you. I so appreciate your flexibility, and that's one of the big keys is in society, mompreneurs, flexi workers, girls, women, men, anyone who's out there trying to make a difference or build an empire. If they're trying hard to juggle a lot of things, like we do all need to be a little bit flexible and mindful of each other. So I really appreciate your flexibility.
My pleasure. And you know what, speaking of kids, because I've seen that even on speaking engagements, like in your business, like your kids are actually actively involved with you, like you bring them on stage with you. And I think that kids are actually brilliant and can be some of our best teachers in the world. And they already naturally have this curiosity, and something that sometimes we even lose as adults. So what would you say has been the most valuable lesson that your kids have taught you so far?
Oh, what an awesome question. There's this time that I took Sienna, my nearly 6-year-old, on stage, and I was really excited about bringing her on stage because, I knew that it would be powerful for the audience to see a working mum with her daughter on stage, and I knew it would be powerful for me to have her there with me, in that moment. And she licked the microphone and then shouted, "There's fairies next door!" and we should all have a party. Who wants to come and dance with me? And that is what they teach you. They teach you that, not everything can be controlled or scripted or perfect, and that sometimes like these little wonder joy bubbles actually do just come to the surface if you allow them. And it's almost like we just need to be willing to like play theater sports with our lives a little bit more. That awesome game that you play, like where you actually just have to improv and you get in, you play full out, and you just roll with whatever kind of gets thrown at you. That's been the greatest lesson from my girls. It's like, let's improv in life.
I love that. And that's really about having that flexibility and knowing that, you know what, I can plan, but whatever happens is what was perfect because it may not always come out the way that you want it because you got a kid who will lick a mic. Like,
just, I'm looking and I'm sort of standing there, you know, slight germaphobe, like actual slight germaphobe, watching her lick the microphone, and I'm going, I'm slightly freaked out by this, but it's probably really good for her immune system, you know.
That's brilliant. Yes, yes.
We'll go with that.
Like she'll fight the germs off. I love it. You know what? You commented in one of your blog posts that you went on this quest to like better understand intelligence, you know, how people learn and think, as well as like how complex problem solving. And one of the things that you mentioned, which I like really became curious about, was that we need to become better scientists. And so what do you mean by that?
Oh, that's such a great question. I was kind of obsessed with this whole concept of really complex problem solving. And I was interested from a recruitment perspective to begin with, because a lot of organizations were saying, you know, we need better and brighter people to be able to solve these problems. And I was sort of like, is it about intelligence, or is this actually about teaching people different capabilities? Like I sort of had this bee in my bonnet about this whole concept of like intelligence. And what I ended up finding was that, you know, with a simple toolkit that is just about curiosity, we can solve any problem. And the best people in the world at doing that are scientists. They just keep asking, they keep getting curious, and they remove bias as they go. You know, they even challenge their own bias and they question their own bias, et cetera, et cetera. So they go through these sort of processes. And for me, I sort of realized we can teach that. You can actually teach that to anyone. It's something we're born with. Like my 3-year-old asks me why, like 18,000 times a day. And somewhere along the way, we stop getting so curious, and we stop being those like little curious scientists that we once were.
And you're right. Sometimes we get so like put into a box of like how I should be, how I should act, how I should think based off of what we've been programmed with or what we've been taught over, you know, years. And we've been told no so many times that you stop questioning, you stop asking why, you stop thinking for yourself in some instances. And so you lose that connection to that curiosity, that connection to, well, I know you said it's like this, but could it be like this?
Yeah, you know? Or, you know, what about this? And it's interesting because we don't want to be wrong. You know, we don't want to be wrong. Like somewhere along the way, we get taught that being wrong is not a good thing. And that then is linked to fear, and the fear of failure, and the fear of not being right, and whatever that sort of code looks like for you. But what I'm trying to teach my girls is that actually being wrong is okay. And it's okay not to know something. It's also great to like make a mistake, because that's when your brain has a party and figures out like how it could do things differently next time. And I've heard them say stuff like that recently, and I'm like, yes.
Oh my God, it reminds me of, we were at one of Tony Robbins' events, and he was like questioning us on like a whole bunch of stuff. And we got to this place where it's like, you got into this like state of confusion. And it's because you're on the brink of a new understanding. You're on the brink of a breakthrough. And he would say, once you get to that place in that space, he's like, celebrate. Are you confused? Great. Celebrate. Because a breakthrough is coming, you know, a breakthrough.
I love that. Like you literally think about what's happening in your mind. Like, let's just imagine it's Lego for a second. Confusion is because you picked all the blocks off and they're just all there. And you haven't yet, well, I like to call it collapsing particles, but you haven't yet reassembled what that new thought could be. And that can be confusing and uncomfortable because you've not necessarily built something yet. But the moment that you build it again is that, you know, amazing feeling that you get where you sort of, oh, hello. Where you sort of go, yes, I know what's happening now. Did you want to come and say hello?
Oh, okay. The little one's here. Look. Yes. Say hello.
She might climb up. All right, we'll see. She may make a mistake.
Right, and that's the beauty of like you have your own mind. And hey, cutie. Oh, you want to say hello to everybody?
You want to say hello? Say hello to everyone. That's okay. You don't have to.
She's like, oh, no. And that's the beauty of having your own mind to be able to like, you know what, this resonates with me and I'm down for it, or not really.
Actually, no, I know. And I actually kind of love that. Like when they go, no, I don't want to do that. You know, it's irritating because you really want them to be like these perfectly behaved humans, but I celebrate their rebellion. I'm like, you're going to make an awesome adult. It's frustrating for me right now because all I want you to do is what I say, but it's kind of awesome at the same time.
You know, one of the other things that you talk about is like our levels of thinking. So our logical thinking, our creative, and our abstract thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about like, because technology is an amazing thing. I mean, we're using technology right now to be able to connect from all the way across the world and to have this conversation with everybody who's watching and listening. But you also make mention about how technology sometimes blocks our ability, our thinking ability, as well as our connection to our hearts. So, you know, talk a little bit about that.
It's such a great sort of moment that you kind of captured there, because I love technology, and like you said, I'm in awe of technology, but I'm also wary of technology because it's like any program, it's like any thought, it's like anything, in that it can then be a block to the truth or to something bigger than what you sort of need to experience as a human in this life, if that makes sense. But for me, technology should be an enabler. And it should be something that we consciously engage with to do something, to have a connection with someone, to enhance something in some way. And the moment that we start to just use it in a non-conscious or a subconscious state, I think it becomes a huge block, because we've then put it into an autopilot program and we've almost outsourced an element of self. So I use technology prolifically. I use social media prolifically. Like I love Instagram, I love Facebook, I love LinkedIn. But before I actually sit down and use those tools, I do take a moment to check in with myself and to tune into my heart, because it should be about extending my reach or expressing myself in some way or having a conversation with someone. If I am sharing something, it's usually from the heart. That can make people a little bit uncomfortable because I do tend to sort of share what's on my mind, how I'm thinking and feeling. I know my Nan, hi Nan, if you're watching this, you're probably not, but that's okay. She recently said to one of my aunties, does she have to share that much online? It made her really uncomfortable.
Sounds like my mom.
And Mum said, you can just unfollow her. So I think someone helped her unfollow me the other day, which I celebrate because it is about consciousness. It's about choice. You know, you don't have to follow someone that makes you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to look at that thing if it makes you feel uncomfortable, but be aware of what those triggers are and use them to actually evolve. Use them to go, okay, there's something there that's triggered me in some way, and so I should evolve, et cetera, et cetera. So consciousness for me is key. The danger I see in technology is that so many people are just getting into this trance-like state. We do go into a bit of a hypnotic trance-like state when we're watching TV or we're just like absent-mindedly scrolling. And I think of that as quite sort of dangerous for the mindset, because there's so much stuff that can just seep through and that can affect our programming. And that's not good for our heart.
And you're right. And it talks about even standing guard to the gate of your mind, because the things that we allow in do affect us in one way or another. And so just being more mindful of the way that we use this amazing tool of technology, but that it does not over influence our lives, where you're still thinking for yourself. And I love how you even embrace, hey, like, you know what, you don't like my content, you don't like what I'm saying, cool, unfollow.
Yeah,
like you don't totally. You don't have to listen.
Now, come with me for a second. This is the art of multitasking. Okay, come on, we'll open the door. We just have to open the door for Miss Stella, who's keen to go outside even though it's 40-something degrees. And she's a persistent wee thing. She will make sure that we do it. Won't you, Stells? There we go. Okay.
And this is so, like, this is real life. This is, you know what? I run businesses. I raise children. I have to take let animals out. Like, I have to just let, life happening.
yeah, and they interrupt as you kind of go. And it's interesting because meditation, mindfulness, journaling, all of those like just simple tools help me keep it together, because you will be interrupted 10, 15 times. And, you know, we know what that does to your productivity. If you're in an office without children and a co-worker comes and interrupts you, it can take you 10 minutes to get back into that flow state to be able to re-establish productivity. So if you're working on the run with small children around, or mixed medium, even like across technology, also writing, you know, doing multiple things, then any of those interruptions have, you know, a risk of actually interrupting your flow state and then taking a long time to get it back into it. But what I've found over the years is the more I meditate, the quicker I can transition into different states. So I can consciously go, right, I am being interrupted. I'll be able to resume in a moment, and kind of pull my attention in and out of multiple places if I kind of need to, which has been really powerful.
Yeah, and that's so necessary to be able to incorporate mindfulness techniques that allow us to get better control of our states of being, like our moods, our emotions, our focus, because life is going to happen, but it's how you react to life that matters, because that's what's going to determine your outcome. So I love how you share that meditation for you is one of those really powerful tools. And one of the things I know, because you work with like huge corporations as well as like entrepreneur groups and things like that, and you talk a lot about this wonder mindset and the power of that wonder mindset. And so I want you to be able to share, you know, what is that, and how can we go about embracing it? And hey, cutie, look.
Yeah, she's going in for this. You want to come and talk about the wonder mindset? You can sit on my knee. You're happy just there. So she'll just poke her head in and out as she kind of needs. So yeah, I kind of went through this little journey of discovery and research and gathering certifications. I became a qualified hypnotherapist and NLP master, and I was also doing design thinking. And somehow in all understanding all these different frameworks, I kind of put things together and realized that actually we can rewire our thinking. You know, I'd learnt this whole concept of neuroplasticity, and people were saying, you can rewire your thoughts, but there wasn't anyone actually saying, here's how. And I got really curious to sort of see whether you could do that. Could you rewire your thinking? Like, I understand that scientists say you can, but then how? So the wonder mindset is a bit of a layer cake. It's actually giving people a series of tools to first understand self and identify limiting self-beliefs and really develop your self-awareness so that you can actually approach life with a sense of wonder. And that sense of wonder then enables you to be more productive at work. It allows you to be more creative at work, because when you have a sense of wonder and a sense of curiosity, and you can consciously hack that wonder and that curiosity, you can actually be more productive. You can decide to do pieces of work that you add the most value to. You can innovate because you're able to understand process in a sort of new way. So it's part business book and part sort of the book that I've written is part business book, part self-help. Because for me, if I'm working with a large organization trying to unleash innovative thinking at scale, the biggest barrier to innovative thinking for me is self-awareness. And actually, when it plays out in the organization, when you really do a root cause analysis to find out what's really going on here, it's always people. It's always people's stuff. You know, it's something that happened to them when they were 3, you know, or something that happened 5 weeks ago with a partner, or, you know, people bringing these other things into the organization that then create these barriers to innovation. So the wonder mindset for me was a way of influencing mindset in a positive way to empower people to actually take control so that they could innovate more freely for themselves and also in their life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And you're right, because we bring our baggage with us unless we can become aware of it, identify it, and release it in some way, which then creates the space for new ideas and new thinking and new ways of operating. Because otherwise you may have programs going on in the back of your mind from things that you were taught as a child that are still affecting you as an adult, and you don't even realize that hold that it has on you. And I think so many of us, have or deal with that, and the more that you do the personal development, that you do the work, or that you explore this wonder mindset, as you mentioned, it helps you to kind of start to uncover and peel apart these layers and get down to, oh, that's why I have a bad attitude every time that person walks in the room. It really has nothing to do with them, but it's something about
actually not them at all.
Exactly.
And that, like, ultimately, that taking responsibility for self and for mind and for heart and for journey is just so powerful. Like, when you can actually engage with the world in that way. And that's for me what wonder is all about. Like, wonder is being the observer. It is actually 100% taking the driver's seat and getting curious and not being biased. So it's removing bias and actually going, this could be me. It may not be all those other people. It actually could be me that's bringing this problem into my life on an ongoing basis. And
doing that, saying that, it could be me, also gives you the power to change it. Because if the problem is somebody else, then it's only if they do something different that your problem goes away. But if you say, hey, it's me, the way I'm perceiving it, or the way that I'm reacting to it, or what I believe about this situation, that's the issue, and I change me, you're the one in control. Like,
you're a scientist, and that is the science of it. It is. It's like you keep questioning until you find that one thing that you can change, and that one tiny little thing that you change actually has a profound impact. It has a profound compounding interest as well. Like, that little thing adds up and creates so much more wonder in your world, which is just super powerful.
And then, are there any like questions that we should be asking ourselves, like, that help to kind of spark that wonder mindset?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because when I first started writing the book, I started with all of these positive questions. But what I found more powerful was actually to explore the polarity. And it's uncomfortable, but when you actually do get really curious about your fears and about your darkness and about maybe the experiences that you don't want to think about that potentially shaped you, you can actually bring them up and do the kind of questioning around them, make some sense of them, reframe them, recode them, put them back in like a nice, neat, tidy way, in a way that kind of makes sense to you. It's not about ignoring them. It's not about glossing over them. It's not even about getting rid of them. It is about recoding them and making sense of them so that you can have them there and then kind of move forward. So the questions I would ask would be like, what is my greatest fear? And what's holding me back? And what is the worst thing that has happened to me in my life? And what impact did that have on me? And what impact is that still having on me? And what shame do I carry? I did this interesting exercise the other day. In just a minute, okay? Where I actually wrote on little balls like what I was feeling ashamed about, and just sat them in front of me, like sitting looking at my shame. And that's wonder. Like, wonder doesn't have to be all fluffy and gloss and butterflies and beautiful blooming flowers, although taking time to walk through nature and actually just connect with the beauty that is around us is also about wonder. But it's also about getting curious about the stuff that maybe we haven't fully explored because it's been too uncomfortable to do so. Do you want a bottle? Hey, how old are you? You're nearly 3. Do you need a bottle? We've been trying to get the bottle. If anyone has tips for me, I'm ready. Bring them at me.
I know that's right. Look, hey, but she knows what she wants. That's a powerful mindset to have.
Stella, what's your name? What's your name? Oh, you're keeping that. We're keeping this too, apparently, until she's 23. She told me the other day. Yeah.
Say,
it's awesome. That was part of the shame. Like the interesting things, right? It's like, why do I have shame about my 2-year-old having a dummy? Because some mum judged me when I was walking down the street. Wow, I'm carrying that as a little ball. You know, I'm carrying this little ball of shame that has nothing to do with anyone. Who cares if she has a dummy? You know, it's kind of handy when you're wanting to do interviews with amazing people.
You know, when you talk about, and I love that exercise that you shared about, like, kind of putting these balls out in front of you of like, what are the things that I'm embarrassed about or feel shameful about? And I do a similar process when I do like a purge list. You know, I did, like, especially coming to the new year, you know, I was like all these things that I wanted to let go of that were no longer serving me. And so I literally wrote out on a piece of paper, you know, like indecision or procrastination or like settling, playing small. I just wrote all these things out. And I had to go into it with a mindset of, let me just be curious. Like, let me just look at it with a mindset of just like, this is interesting, instead of like immediately starting to judge myself when those thoughts would come up. Like, are you like like, oh, you're a procrastinator. Oh, you know, you shouldn't be a procrastinator. You know what? You should know better by now. And it was like, just look at it and just be
Look
curious.
at it.
Oh, that's interesting. You're procrastinating, but we're not going to do that anymore. Like, you know.
Well, because otherwise it's like, you know, let's just say a cooking analogy. It's like, oh yeah, I cook cakes. You know, I'm just glossing over like I need flour and chocolate. I don't want to look at the nitty gritty of the ingredients. I know like largely what it's sort of made of. Like when we don't actually take the time to just be curious and non-judgmental about the things that make us, the things that are us, you know, then we don't fully understand the recipe of us. Like we need to be curious so that we can then just comfortably understand what our makeup is. That's who we are on a page, you know, and that self-acceptance. And for me, that's been quite the journey. The self-acceptance of that just is who I am. And I don't like some of those things. You know, I don't like them and I don't want to accept them. But, you know, what would happen if I did? What would happen if I did accept that, you know, I'm highly creative and that means that I am sometimes a bit messy? You know, I don't want to be. Well, that's nice that I don't want to be, but I am. You know.
And we have the ability to go in and retrain our brain so that we can truly become anything we want. And that's so beautiful and powerful. And I want to thank you so much. Like, this has been amazing. And I definitely want to be able to give the little woman her time back so she can get her juice in her bottle. We really appreciate your time, but I want to let everybody know how they can get in contact with you.
Oh, awesome. So I'm launching this cool website this week, wonderandwander.com. So www.wonderandwander.com. And we have some phenomenal experiences coming up in Bali. One of them is called the Evolve Leadership Summit. And that is bringing together men and women from around the world, evolved leaders, to look at like the next evolution of leadership. So we'll also have some future leaders that come along to that as well, which is just, going to be so amazing. And then we're also doing an event called Well Traveled, and we do a couple of immersive kind of leadership pieces as well. So there's one in LA, there's one in New York. There's lots of cool stuff on there that you can kind of check out. I'm on Instagram as Sarah Nally Wonder, and also on Facebook too. And yeah, just shoot me through one of those things. And when I'm conscious and engaged, I will be checking those platforms.
I love it. I love it. And make sure that you check out Sarah Nally at wonderandwander.com, and the link will be up in the video. And we know when we share our stories, we get to live, love, and learn a little bit more. And I want you to be proof of what's possible. I'm your host, Havilah Malone, and thank you so much for joining us for Havilah and Friends. I can't wait to see you next week.